After selling my patent for $17 million, I threw a big party to celebrate. But just before the toast, I saw my husband slip something into my champagne. My hands went cold, but my mind stayed sharp. When no one looked, I switched glasses with his spoiled, overbearing mother. Minutes later, she began to panic, and my quiet revenge finally started. My mother-in-law is dying on my living room floor, and I'm the only one who knows it's my husband's fault. Patricia's convulsing eyes rolled back, foam at the corners of her mouth. My husband Joshua is screaming for someone to call 911. My daughter Emma is frozen by the fireplace, her face pale with shock. 70 party guests are pulling out phones, some calling for help, others recording because that's what people do now. Me. I'm standing here holding a champagne glass, perfectly calm, watching my husband perform grief over his mother's poisoned body. The poison that was meant for me. Before we continue, if you believe in fighting back against betrayal with intelligence and strength, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps us reach more women who need to hear this. Now let's see how this unfolds. Let me back up. 30 minutes ago, this was a celebration party. My nanofiltration patent just sold for $17 million. The culmination of 3 years of basement lab work, failed prototypes, and sleepless nights. Joshua insisted we celebrate properly. Caterers, specialty cocktails, 70 guests who suddenly remembered they always believed in me. I was standing across the room when I saw him at the bar. Saw the small amber vial appear from his jacket pocket. Saw him squeeze 3 drops into my grandmother's crystal champagne flute, the chipped one I've used for every important moment since I was 18. Saw him swirl it with his pinky finger and set it back on the bar. I didn't scream, didn't confront him, didn't warn anyone. I walked straight to Patricia and handed her that poison glass. You've been such an important part of this journey, I said. You deserve something special. She took it with a confused smile. Now she's on the floor dying, and Joshua has no idea I know exactly what he did. This is where my revenge begins. But first, let me tell you about the party, about the people, about how I got here. Our Alexandria townhouse is packed wall to wall with faces I haven't seen in years. My former lab partner from MIT who stopped returning my emails when I left academia to pursue my own research. The venture capitalist who told me my project was interesting but not investable 3 years ago. My Aunt Carol who suggested I get a real job when I was burning through savings to fund prototypes. Now they're all here, drinking my expensive champagne, eating catered hors d'oeuvres, congratulating me like they always knew I'd make it. We're so proud of you, Nicole, my Aunt Carol says, squeezing my arm with fingers heavy with rings she probably can't afford. I always told your mother you were special. He didn't. She told my mother I was wasting my education and neglecting my daughter. But tonight everyone's rewriting history. Tonight I'm a genius, a visionary, a success story. The scientist who solved a global water purification problem and got paid $17 million for it. Joshua's been orchestrating the whole evening like a conductor. He hired the caterers himself, told me not to worry about it, that he wanted to handle everything so I could relax and enjoy my moment. He picked the menu, designed the specialty cocktails, invited people from my past I'd deliberately lost touch with. At the time I thought it was sweet, thoughtful. The supportive husband making sure his brilliant wife got the celebration she deserved. Now I understand it differently. He wasn't celebrating me. He was setting the stage, building the narrative, creating witnesses for the tragic story he planned to tell. The genius scientist who worked herself to exhaustion, whose heart gave out at her moment of triumph, who died surrounded by people who loved her. He's been working the room all evening in the designer suit I bought him last month. Navy blue, perfectly tailored, paired with Italian leather shoes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I need to look the part, he'd said when I questioned the expense. When people see me with you at events, they need to know you're successful. I'd paid for it without argument. Always did. That was our arrangement. I earned the money, he managed our image. I focused on science, he focused on networking. Seemed fair. Complementary. A partnership where we each played to our strengths. Except now I'm watching him charm my former colleagues, and I'm realizing he wasn't managing our image. He was managing his future. Making connections, building relationships, ensuring that when I died tragically, he'd have a network of successful people who'd help him honor my legacy, while he spent my money. Emma's standing near the fireplace in a dress she hates. Patricia insisted on buying it for her, cream-colored lace. Too formal, too stiff, something you'd wear to a debutante ball in 1950. Emma's 12. She wants to wear jeans and her robotics club hoodie. She wants to be in her room coding or building circuits, not standing in a living room full of adults pretending to care about water filtration technology. She catches my eye across the room and makes a face, the universal preteen expression for, rescue me from this nightmare. I give her a subtle smile that says, "Almost done, baby." If only she knew how true that was. Patricia's positioned herself front and center, naturally, because Patricia has never encountered a spotlight she didn't want to monopolize. She's wearing a dress that probably costs more than my first research grant. Emerald green silk with subtle beading, the kind of thing you see in high-end boutique windows. Her hair's shellacked into a complicated updo that probably required 2 hours and a professional stylist. She's clutching her Hermes bag. The Birkin, the one she mentions casually in conversation so people know she owns a Birkin, like it's armor against ordinary people. And she's already dabbing at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief even though nothing emotional has happened yet. That's Patricia's signature move. Performative emotion. She cries at commercials, at church services, at restaurant meals when the ambience is particularly nice. She's practicing for a grief she hasn't experienced yet, rehearsing sorrow so it'll look authentic when she needs it. I'm watching her perform when I notice Joshua moving. He's weaving through guests, heading toward the bar we set up near the kitchen. Something about his body language catches my attention. The purposeful stride, the way his hand moves to his jacket pocket, the quick glance he throws over his shoulder. I turn slightly, keeping him in my peripheral vision while maintaining my conversation with someone whose name I've already forgotten. He reaches the bar. His back is partially to the room now. His hand disappears into his jacket pocket and emerges holding something small. A vial. Amber-colored glass. Maybe 15 milliliters. My breath stops. He uncaps it with his thumb. Smooth, practiced, no fumbling, and tilts it over my grandmother's crystal champagne flute. The one with the small chip near the base that I've used for every important moment since she gave it to me at my high school graduation. "For celebrating your victories," she'd said. 3 drops fall into the champagne. I count them. 1, 2, 3. He swirls the liquid with his pinky finger, mixing whatever he just added, then sets the glass back on the bar. The whole thing takes maybe 8 seconds. Then he caps the vial, slips it back into his pocket and turns around with a smile, relaxed, casual, like a man who just checked his phone or adjusted his cufflinks. My heart's pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat, but my face stays neutral. Interested in whatever the person in front of me is saying about market applications for my patent. My mind's racing through possibilities. Poison, obviously, but what kind? Fast-acting or slow? Lethal or incapacitating? Something that mimics natural causes? Joshua's not stupid. He wouldn't use anything traceable, anything that would immediately point to foul play. He'd want this to look natural. Tragic. The brilliant scientist who pushed herself too hard, whose heart gave out, who died at her moment of triumph. I catalog what I saw. The vial's size, the color, the number of drops, the way he swirled to ensure mixture, the practiced smoothness of his movements. This isn't impulse. This isn't a moment of passion or rage. This is premeditated. This is a plan. And then it hits me. The prenup, the patent, the money. We signed a prenuptial agreement 10 years ago before we got married. My attorney insisted on it because I was already working on early-stage research that could be valuable. The prenup's explicit. What's mine is mine, what's his is his. In a divorce, Joshua would get his share of marital assets. The townhouse we bought together, maybe $40,000 in joint savings, possibly limited alimony. But he wouldn't get my patent, wouldn't get my $17 million, wouldn't get the royalties that'll keep flowing for years. Unless I'm dead. If I die, my will, the one I wrote 5 years ago when I still believed Joshua loved me for reasons other than my earning potential, leaves everything to him. Everything. Joshua's business has been failing for 3 years. I know because I've been quietly monitoring our finances, watching the monthly losses from his consulting firm pile up. He calls himself a strategic business consultant and investment advisor, but the reality is he's been burning through $8,000 a month while generating almost no revenue. 3 years of losses totaling over $200,000. My income propping up his fantasy of being a successful entrepreneur. And Patricia. Patricia with her 2 mortgages on an underwater condo. Patricia with her BMW and her designer bags and her spa financing. Yes, she has payment plans for cosmetic procedures. Patricia who's been living beyond her means for years, maintaining appearances while drowning financially. Then there's Joshua's brother Marcus, who calls himself an alternative financing specialist but is actually a predatory lender. For months ago I overheard Joshua on the phone with him something about bridge capital and family rates, loans that come with consequences when you can't pay. The picture assembles itself in my mind with brutal clarity. They need money. I have money, but they can't access it while I'm alive. So they need me dead. And Joshua just put poison in my champagne. The toast is starting. I can see people gathering, finding spaces in the living room, turning toward the front where Joshua's business partner Derek is positioning himself. Derek, who contributed nothing to my research but will happily network off my success. Derek, who once told me I should consider a more practical career path. Joshua's moving now, heading back toward the bar, probably to ensure I pick up the right glass. The poisoned one, my grandmother's flute with the distinctive chip that everyone at this party has seen me drink from 100 times. But I'm already moving, walking directly toward Patricia with purpose like I have something important to say. I pick up both champagne flutes from the bar as I pass. Mine with the chip and the poison, hers pristine and safe. Joshua's 3 steps behind me, close enough that I hear him inhale sharply when he realizes what I'm holding. Patricia, I say warmly, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. You've been such an important part of this journey. You deserve to toast with something special. It's not even a lie. She has been instrumental in undermining me at every family gathering, in suggesting Joshua deserved a more traditional wife, in questioning whether I was neglecting Emma by working late hours. A mother's place is with her children, she'd said at Thanksgiving, her voice dripping with judgment while I helped Emma with her science fair project via video call from Geneva. If anyone deserves to drink from the poisoned chalice of her son's greed and desperation, it's the woman who raised him to believe other people's success threatens his masculinity. Patricia looks confused for a second, probably wondering why I'm giving her my specific glass instead of letting her keep her own. But then her face rearranges itself into an expression of pleased surprise. "Oh, Nicole, how thoughtful," she says, accepting the chipped crystal flute with the air of someone receiving tribute she's always known she deserved. I take her glass. Christine, safe, unpoisoned. Behind me, I hear Joshua's footsteps stop. I don't turn around. I don't need to see his face to know what he's thinking. Calculating, recalibrating, trying to figure out if this is coincidence or if I somehow know. Derek clears his throat, tapping his glass with a knife. "Everyone, if I could have your attention, please." The room quiets. People turn toward the front, champagne flutes raised in anticipation. We all lift our glasses. I take the smallest possible sip, normal champagne, slightly dry, expensive, nothing sinister. Patricia takes a generous gulp because Patricia does nothing by halves, especially when it comes to consuming things she perceives as premium. Derek launches into a speech about innovation and perseverance. People nod along. I count in my head. 30 seconds. 40. 45. Patricia's mid-sentence, saying something about how she always knew I had potential if I just applied myself properly, when her face changes. Not gradually like someone flipped a switch. Her eyes widen. Her hand flies to her throat. She makes a sound I'll hear in my nightmares. Not quite choking, more like her vocal cords are seizing. The champagne glass slips from her fingers and shatters against the hardwood floor. Her knees buckle. She drops so hard I hear the impact, the sickening crack of skull meeting wood. Which brings us back to now. To Patricia convulsing on my living room floor. To Joshua's performance of devastated son. To Emma's pale face and trembling hands. To 70 party guests with their phones out, some calling 911, others recording this tragedy for social media. And to me, standing here holding Patricia's safe glass, watching my husband grieve over the body of his mother while he has no idea I know exactly what he did. The paramedics will arrive in 7 minutes. They'll stabilize Patricia. They'll rush her to the hospital. She'll survive. I made sure of that by swapping glasses early enough that she only took one large gulp instead of finishing the glass. But Joshua doesn't know that yet. Right now he thinks his plan worked. He thinks I drank the poison. He thinks any second now I'll start showing symptoms. He keeps glancing at me between sobs, checking for signs. Trembling hands, pale face, difficulty breathing. I give him nothing. I stand here calm and steady, the concerned daughter-in-law, the brilliant scientist who's too shocked to process what's happening. And I'm thinking, this is where my revenge begins. Because I'm not just going to survive this. I'm going to document every move he makes. I'm going to build a case so airtight that when this all comes out, and it will come out, nobody will be able to deny what he tried to do. Joshua wanted me dead for my money. Instead he's about to lose everything. The ambulance pulls away from our townhouse with lights flashing but no siren. Patricia's stable enough that they don't need to blast through red lights, but critical enough that Joshua insists on riding with her. He climbs into the back of the vehicle, still playing devastated son, his face a mask of worry that would convince anyone who didn't know what I know. The remaining guests scatter quickly after that. Nobody wants to stay at a party where someone just collapsed. They mumble condolences and well wishes, gather their coats, and disappear into the November night. Within 15 minutes, our living room is empty except for the catering staff packing up untouched food and Emma standing by the fireplace still wearing that ridiculous dress. "Mom." Her voice is small. "What just happened?" I cross the room and pull her into a hug. She's 12 but still fits perfectly against my shoulder. Still smells like the strawberry shampoo she's used since she was 6. Patricia got sick, baby. The paramedics are taking care of her. But why did she? Emma pulls back, looking up at me with those sharp hazel eyes that miss nothing. It was so fast. 1 second she was talking and then, I know. I smooth her hair back from her face. It was scary. But she's going to be okay. Emma studies my face and I can see her processing, analyzing, trying to make sense of what she witnessed. She's always been like this. Methodical, logical, unable to accept easy answers when the data doesn't add up. He gets it from me. We should go to the hospital, I say. Get your jacket. The drive to Innova Alexandria Hospital takes 23 minutes. Emma sits in the passenger seat of my Honda, silent for the first 15, staring out the window at the streetlights sliding past. I can feel her watching me in her peripheral vision, studying my profile, measuring my reactions. Mom, she finally says as we merge onto the highway, that was really weird. Yeah, baby, it was. Like, really weird. She was fine and then she just wasn't. Emma turns in her seat to face me fully. And you were so calm. Everyone else was freaking out but you just stood there like you were watching an experiment or something. My hands tighten on the steering wheel. My daughter is too observant for her own good. Sometimes when scary things happen, people react differently. Some people panic. Some people get quiet and focused. Are you okay? The fact that my 12-year-old daughter is asking me if I'm okay, the adult, the parent, the person who's supposed to have everything under control, tells me exactly how not okay the situation appears to her. I'm fine, I lie, keeping my eyes on the road. Then I make a decision. Emma's going to be questioned eventually. By family, by doctors, maybe by authorities if this goes where I think it's going. She needs to know what she saw matters. But I need you to remember everything from tonight. Everything. Can you do that? She's quiet for a moment. Then, you mean like, exactly what happened? Exactly. Who was standing where? What people said? What you saw? I glance at her quickly before returning my attention to the highway. Sometimes details matter more than people realize. Emma nods slowly and I watch her expression shift from confused child to something more serious. More adult. Yeah, I can do that. Good girl. We don't talk for the rest of the drive, but I can feel the weight of what just passed between us. The unspoken understanding that something significant happened tonight, something that requires documentation and attention and memory. In that moment, my daughter becomes my witness. Innova Alexandria Hospital's emergency room smells exactly like every hospital I've ever been in. Industrial disinfectant trying to mask the underlying scent of sickness and fear. The fluorescent lights are too bright, making everyone look pale and slightly corpse-like. There's a TV mounted in the corner playing the news on mute, and a coffee machine that looks like it hasn't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. Joshua's already here, pacing the waiting room like a caged animal. His designer suit is rumpled now, his tie loosened, his hair disarranged from running his hands through it repeatedly. He looks up when we enter and his face does something complicated, relief followed quickly by something else I can't quite name. Disappointment, fear. Nicole. He crosses to me, pulls me into a hug that feels performative even as it's happening. Thank God you're here. I don't know what I'd do without you. Over his shoulder, I see Emma watching us with an expression that's far too knowing for a 12-year-old. How is she? I ask, pulling back from the embrace. They're running tests. They won't tell me anything yet. Joshua rakes his hand through his hair again. This is insane. 1 minute she's fine, the next she's on the floor. I don't understand what happened. Skid. His voice cracks in all the right places. His body language screams devastated son. If I didn't know what I know, I'd be completely convinced. But I do know. And now I'm watching him construct his narrative in real time. He pulls out his phone, shows me the screen. I've been texting everyone. My brother Marcus, Aunt Linda, the guys from my office. Everyone's asking what happened. I glance at the messages. Mom collapsed at Nicole's party. Don't know what happened. Pray for us. The same text sent to at least 15 people. He's building his alibi, establishing his story, creating a digital record of the devoted son blindsided by his mother's mysterious collapse. Joshua sits down heavily in one of the waiting room chairs. I take the seat next to him. Emma sits on my other side, quiet but alert. A nurse walks by and Joshua calls out to her. Excuse me, do you have any updates on Patricia Whitmore? She came in about 30 minutes ago. The nurse checks her tablet. The doctor will be out to speak with you as soon as we have more information. But is she okay? Is she going to be okay? The doctor will be out soon, sir. Joshua slumps back in his chair and I watch him carefully. He keeps glancing at me, quick, furtive looks when he thinks I'm not paying attention. He's scanning me, checking my hands to see if they're trembling, studying my face for signs of distress. looking for symptoms, because in his plan I was supposed to be the one who collapsed. I was supposed to be the one rushed to the hospital. I was supposed to be the one dying while he played the role of devastated husband. A man in scrubs walks by pushing an empty wheelchair. A woman in the corner coughs wetly into a tissue. The TV silently shows footage of a car accident on the Beltway. And Joshua keeps watching me, waiting for me to show signs that the poison is working. I just don't understand what happened, he says to a passing orderly. She was fine 1 minute. 10 minutes later he says it again to an elderly couple sitting across from us. I just don't understand what happened. She was completely fine. Another 10 minutes and he's repeating it to the intake nurse. I just don't understand what happened. 1 minute she was fine. I count 5 repetitions in the first 30 minutes we're there. Each time his voice has the same quality, confused, devastated, desperate for answers. When someone repeats themselves that much, it's not shock processing trauma. It's rehearsal. It's making sure the story stays consistent, because inconsistency is how people get caught. It's building a narrative that will hold up under scrutiny. I sit quietly beside him, my face a mask of appropriate concern, while my mind catalogs every inconsistency, every calculated gesture, every performance beat. Emma sits on my other side, also watching, also learning, also seeing that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you are the most dangerous. A doctor emerges after 40 minutes, late 30s, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she's been on shift too long, wearing scrubs that have seen better days. She's carrying a tablet and wearing an expression that's carefully neutral. Family of Patricia Whitmore? Joshua's on his feet immediately. Yes, that's my mother. Is she okay? What happened? The doctor glances between us and I see her measuring, assessing who to address. Your mother is stable. We've begun treatment and she's responding well. Oh, thank God. Joshua's relief appears genuine. Maybe it is genuine. His mother wasn't supposed to be the one poisoned after all. What was it? What happened to her? The doctor chooses her words carefully, watching our faces. We're still running a full panel, but preliminary toxicology results suggest possible alkaloid poisoning, specifically something consistent with aconite or a similar neurotoxin. The word hangs in the air like smoke. Poisoning. Joshua's face goes through a series of expressions: confusion, shock, disbelief. Poisoning? That's impossible. How would she? He trails off, looking genuinely shaken. I step forward calmly. She only had 1 sip of champagne at our house, doctor. Maybe 2 at most. Super fast reaction, right? Like under a minute. The doctor nods slowly, her eyes moving to me with interest. Yes, that timeline is consistent with acute poisoning from a concentrated source. If it was ingested, it would have been in whatever she consumed most recently. You think it was the champagne? Joshua's voice rises slightly. That's insane. Everyone was drinking champagne at the party. Nobody else got sick. I watch his eyes as he says it. For a fraction of a second, less than a heartbeat, they flick to me, calculating, assessing, trying to understand what happened. Then he recovers and the mask of confused sun slides back into place. Yeah, I say, giving him a small friendly smile. Insane. The doctor explains that Patricia will be kept overnight for observation, that they're running a complete toxicology panel, that they need to monitor her cardiac function and neurological responses. With this type of poisoning we have to be thorough. The compound you mentioned, aconite, it's not something we see often. It's highly toxic, fast-acting. She's lucky she didn't consume more. Lucky. The word echoes in my head. Patricia's lucky because I made sure she only took 1 large gulp before the symptoms hit. If I'd waited longer, if I'd let her finish the glass, she might not have been so lucky. Joshua asks more questions. Treatment protocols, recovery timeline, visiting hours. The doctor answers patiently, professionally. Then she excuses herself, promising to update us as soon as they have more information. The moment she's gone, Joshua sits back down beside me. He puts his hand on my knee, supportive husband gesture, the physical vocabulary of partnership and concern. I'm so glad you're here, he says softly, looking into my eyes with an expression that would melt hearts if those hearts didn't know what I know. I don't know what I'd do without you. That's when it clicks into place with perfect crystalline clarity. He's not relieved his mother survived. He's confused that she collapsed instead of me. And now he's scanning me for symptoms, checking to see if maybe I drank from that glass too, if maybe the poison is working slower in my system, if maybe his plan is still salvageable. He's looking at my hands to see if they're trembling, studying my face for pallor or distress, watching my breathing for signs of respiratory difficulty. He's waiting for me to collapse. Because in his mind I was supposed to be the one on that stretcher. I was supposed to be the one with the toxicology report and the uncertain prognosis. I was supposed to be the one dying while he played grieving widower and inherited $17 million. I squeeze his hand back, matching his concerned expression. We'll get through this. Together. He smiles, genuine relief washing over his face, and in that smile I see everything. He thinks he's safe. He thinks I don't know. He thinks the glass swap was coincidence, that I have no idea what he put in my champagne, that he still has time to adjust his plan and try again. What he doesn't know, what he can't possibly know yet, is that my mind has already shifted from shock to surgical, from reactive to strategic. I'm not just going to survive this. I'm going to document every single move he makes, every lie, every inconsistency, every calculated gesture. And when this all comes out, and it will come out, nobody will be able to deny what he tried to do. Emma shifts beside me and I feel her small hand slip into mine. She squeezes once, a silent message of solidarity. Joshua's phone buzzes with another text. He reads it, types a response, his thumbs moving quickly across the screen, building his narrative, spreading his story, creating the fiction of the devoted son and loving husband caught in a tragic, inexplicable emergency. I sit there holding my daughter's hand, watching my husband perform concern while planning my murder. And I'm thinking, you have no idea what you've started. We get home just after midnight. Emma's exhausted, the adrenaline from the evening finally wearing off. She changes into pajamas without being asked, brushes her teeth, and climbs into bed without her usual negotiations about screen time or one more chapter. Night, Mom, she mumbles, already half asleep. I kiss her forehead, pull her blanket up, and stand in her doorway for a moment watching her breathe. My daughter, safe, unaware of just how close she came to losing me tonight. Unaware that the man she calls her stepdad tried to kill her mother. Joshua's still at the hospital. He texted an hour ago saying he wanted to stay until Patricia was moved to a regular room, that he'd get a ride home from his brother Marcus. I responded with a supportive message about taking all the time he needs, being there for his mother, how I'd make sure Emma got to bed safely. The perfect wife, the understanding partner, the woman who has no idea her husband just tried to murder her. I close Emma's door quietly and walk down the hallway to my home office. The room that used to be a guest bedroom before I converted it into my workspace 5 years ago. Desk facing the window, filing cabinets along one wall, bookshelves crammed with research papers and technical manuals. My laptop sits exactly where I left it this morning, a lifetime ago, before the party, before the poison, before everything changed. I lock the door behind me, sit down in my chair, and start pulling threads. The financial kind. The kind that unravel entire lives when you tug them with enough force. I open my laptop and navigate to my bank account. The patent sale closed 3 days ago. $17 million sitting in my personal checking account, waiting to be properly distributed into investments and trusts. The number still doesn't feel real. I keep expecting to see a decimal point in the wrong place, an extra zero that shouldn't be there. But it's real. It's mine. And according to the documents sitting in my email inbox, it's mine legally, solely, completely. I pull up the operating agreement for my LLC, the company I formed 6 years ago when my research moved from theoretical to potentially profitable. Joshua isn't listed anywhere. Not as a member, not as an officer, not even as an interested party. When we married 10 years ago, my attorney, a sharp woman named Margaret Chin who'd helped me file my first provisional patent, sat me down and said 5 words that saved my life tonight. Protect your intellectual property. Always. So I did. I kept my research separate, formed my LLC before the wedding, made sure every patent filing, every licensing agreement, every contract was in my name alone. At the time, Joshua had been supportive. Of course, he'd said, your work is yours. I'd never try to take credit for what you've built. He'd even suggested we get a prenup to make everything crystal clear. Just to protect both of us, he'd said. So there's never any question. I thought it was mature, responsible. The mark of a partnership built on respect and independence. Now I understand it differently. He wasn't protecting both of us. He was making sure that in a divorce he wouldn't get my patent, my money, my success, because he was already planning for my death instead. I pull up our prenuptial agreement, 23 pages of legal language that boils down to this. What's mine is mine, what's his is his. In a divorce, Joshua would get his share of marital assets. The townhouse we bought together, currently worth about $600,000 with $400,000 still owed on the mortgage. Our joint savings account with $42,000. Possibly limited alimony for a few years since I've been the primary earner. But he doesn't get my patent, doesn't get my $17 million, doesn't get the royalty stream that'll generate another $2 to $3 million over the next decade. Unless I'm dead. I navigate to my documents folder and open my will. Last updated 5 years ago, shortly after Emma's 7th birthday. I remember sitting in Margaret's office, discussing guardianship arrangements and asset distribution, trying to think about mortality in abstract terms that wouldn't keep me up at night. The language is clear. In the event of my death, everything goes to Joshua as my surviving spouse. The townhouse, the savings, the patents, the royalties, the life insurance policy worth another $2 million. Everything. I wrote that when I still believed Joshua loved me for reasons other than my earning potential. When I thought we were partners building a life together. When I trusted him with my daughter, my home, my future. That will is still active, still legally binding, because I haven't updated it since the patent sale, haven't revised it to reflect my new financial reality, haven't changed anything. If I'd died tonight, if Patricia hadn't drunk that poison instead of me, Joshua would have inherited everything. $17 million plus royalties plus life insurance plus property. $19 million give or take all his. My hands are shaking. I force them still, press my palms flat against the desk and focus on breathing. In for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 4. The technique I learned in graduate school when panic attacks threatened to derail my dissertation defense. I can't afford panic right now. I need clarity. I need information. I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with. I open a new browser tab and navigate to Joshua's LinkedIn profile. Strategic business consultant and investment advisor, reads his headline. His profile picture shows him in a suit, arms crossed, confident smile. His summary is filled with buzzwords: synergistic solutions, value optimization, strategic growth partnerships. It looks impressive, professional, successful. I open our joint credit card statements, the ones that come to my email because I'm the primary card holder. Start scrolling through the charges from the past 3 months. Lunches at expensive restaurants with potential clients. Office supplies from Staples. Software subscriptions for project management tools. A website domain renewal for strategicgrowthadvisors.com. Then I pull up our joint checking account, the one I deposit money into every month to cover household expenses. I've been putting in $6,000 monthly, enough for the mortgage, utilities, groceries, Emma's activities. Joshua's supposed to contribute $3,000 from his business income, except his contributions have been getting smaller. $2,000 last month, $1,500 the month before, $800 in September, nothing in August. I open a spreadsheet and start tracking, pull up 12 months of statements, start categorizing expenses. His business lunches, averaging $1,200 monthly. His office expenses, $800 monthly. His business development charges, another $1,000 monthly. 3 years of data paints a picture that makes my stomach clench. His consulting firm isn't generating income. It's hemorrhaging money. Monthly losses averaging $8,000. 3 years of losses totaling over $200,000. My income has been subsidizing his fantasy of being a successful entrepreneur. Every deposit I made into our joint account, every credit card payment I covered, every time I paid the mortgage because his invoices were delayed, all of it was propping up a business that doesn't actually exist. I find a folder on our shared drive labeled Business Docs Joshua. Open it. Inside are loan applications he never mentioned. A line of credit for $30,000. Maxed out. Credit card cash advances at 23% interest. Late payment notices from vendors I've never heard of. And emails. Dozens of emails between Joshua and his brother Marcus. I open the most recent thread, dated 4 months ago. Marcus, you're in deep, man. That bridge loan comes due in December. $40,000 plus interest. You got it? Joshua, I'm working on it. Nicole's patent deal is getting close. Marcus, getting close doesn't pay my money back. You need a plan. Joshua, I have a plan. Trust me. Marcus, your plans haven't exactly been profitable so far. Remember the crypto thing? The app development thing? You're 0 for 6, brother. Joshua, this is different. This is solid. Just give me until end of year. Marcus, end of year then we have a problem. Family rates only go so far. I sit back in my chair, my heart hammering. Marcus isn't just a predatory lender. He's Joshua's creditor. Joshua owes his brother $40,000 with interest, due in December. 6 weeks from now. I open another email thread. This one between Joshua and his mother Patricia. Patricia, the condo people are threatening foreclosure again. I need at least $15,000 to catch up on the second mortgage. Joshua, Mom, I told you I can't keep doing this. I have my own problems. Patricia, you're my son. Family helps family. When your father was alive, Joshua, Dad left you in debt because he couldn't say no to you. I'm not making the same mistake. Patricia, so you're going to let them take my home? After everything I've done for you? Joshua, I'm working on something. Big money coming. Just hold on until December. Patricia, I don't have until December. I have until the end of this month. Joshua, then figure it out. Get another credit card. Borrow from Aunt Linda. I can't help you right now. I keep reading. Keep pulling threads. The picture that emerges is devastating in its clarity. Patricia has 2 mortgages on a condo in Fairfax that's worth less than she owes. She's 3 months behind on the second mortgage, facing foreclosure. She has a BMW X5 with $900 monthly payments she can barely afford. Credit cards maxed at over $60,000 across 5 different banks. Medical financing for cosmetic procedures, Botox, fillers, something called a non-surgical facelift, that cost $8,000. She's been living beyond her means for years, maintaining the appearance of wealth while drowning financially. And she's been pressuring Joshua to bail her out. Joshua, who's drowning in his own debt, who owes his brother $40,000, who's been hemorrhaging money on a fake consulting business for 3 years, who has no way out, until I sold my patent for $17 million. Money he can't access in a divorce because of our prenup. Money that's legally solely mine. Money that would solve every financial problem he and his mother have. Unless I'm dead. The realization hits me with physical force. I'm not Nicole the wife. I'm not Nicole the partner. I'm Nicole the solution. I'm the ATM that just needs to stop functioning so they can make a withdrawal. My death isn't personal. It's not about love or betrayal or anger. It's mathematics. It's a spreadsheet where my death shows up in the assets column and solves every problem in the liabilities column. Joshua's business debt, Patricia's foreclosure, Marcus's loan. All of it disappears if I die and Joshua inherits $17 million. This wasn't passion. This wasn't rage. This was planning, desperation. Maybe even family conspiracy. Patricia knew about Joshua's financial problems, knew about the patent sale, knew that my death would save her condo and her lifestyle. Did she know about the poison? Did she participate? Or was she just a beneficiary who chose not to ask too many questions? I open a new document and start typing, creating a timeline, documenting everything I found. Bank statements, email threads, loan documents, credit card balances. I screenshot everything, save it to a cloud drive that only I can access, password protect the files. By the time I'm done, the sky outside my window is turning gray with pre-dawn light. I've been in my office for 4 hours. My back aches. My eyes burn. My hands are cramped from typing. But I have a complete financial picture of why my husband tried to kill me tonight. And I make myself a promise, there in my office as the sun begins to rise. They will not win this. They plan my death like a business transaction. Now I'll dismantle their lives like a research project. Methodically, completely, with documentation that can't be disputed. I close my laptop, unlock my office door, walk quietly to the kitchen and start making coffee. When Joshua gets home an hour later, I'm sitting at the kitchen table reading the news on my tablet, freshly showered, looking like a woman who slept peacefully through the night. How's Patricia? I ask, my voice full of concern. He looks exhausted, defeated, stable. They're keeping her another day for observation. That's good. I'm glad she's okay. I stand up, pour him coffee, hand it to him like the supportive wife I'm pretending to be. You must be exhausted. Why don't you get some sleep? He takes the coffee, studies my face, still looking for symptoms, still waiting for me to collapse. Yeah, he says finally. Yeah, I think I will. He heads upstairs. I hear the bedroom door close, and I sit back down at the kitchen table sipping my coffee, thinking about spreadsheets and poison and the price of greed. They need me dead, but I'm very much alive, and now I know exactly why they're desperate enough to kill. I wait until Joshua's bedroom door closes and I hear the shower start running before I pull out my phone. My hands are steadier than they should be. Maybe shock, maybe adrenaline, maybe the cold clarity that comes from understanding exactly what you're dealing with. I scroll through my contacts and find Margaret Chen's number. My attorney, the woman who saved my intellectual property 10 years ago. The woman who's about to save my life. It's 6 in the morning. Most people would wait until business hours. But Margaret isn't most people, and this isn't a situation that can wait for business hours. She answers on the second ring. Nicole. Her voice is alert, no trace of sleep. Everything okay? No. I keep my voice low, move to the far corner of the kitchen where the water pipes in the walls will muffle any sound from upstairs. I need help, legal help, today. There's a brief pause. I hear what sounds like a coffee maker in the background, the rustle of papers. Tell me. So I do. I tell her everything. The celebration party. The small amber vial I saw Joshua pull from his jacket. The 3 drops he squeezed into my grandmother's champagne flute. The way I switched glasses with Patricia. Her collapse. The hospital. The toxicology report confirming alkaloid poisoning. The financial investigation I conducted last night. Joshua's mounting debts, Patricia's foreclosure, Marcus's predatory loans. The mathematical calculation that makes my death worth $19 million. Margaret doesn't interrupt, doesn't gasp, doesn't express shock or disbelief. She just listens with the focused intensity of someone who's heard terrible things before and knows how to respond to them. When I finish, there's a pause. Then, okay, we're going into full defense mode. Today, her voice is steady, clinical. Exactly what I need. Not sympathy or horror but strategy. First thing, she continues, and I can hear her typing now, rapid-fire keystrokes. We need to establish your cognitive competency with an independent evaluation. If Joshua's desperate enough to poison you, he's desperate enough to try having you declared incompetent. Get you into a conservatorship or guardianship situation where he controls your assets and medical decisions. My stomach clenches. Can he do that? If he can convince a judge you're declining mentally or making irrational decisions, yes. It's been done before, usually with elderly relatives, but the law applies to anyone. And with 17 million on the line, he'll try. She pauses. I'm calling Dr. Sarah Feldman. She's a neuropsychologist who specializes in competency evaluations. She's testified in 75 conservatorship cases. Her assessments are legally bulletproof. Can you be at her office by 9? I glance at the clock. 3 hours. Yes. Good. I'll text you the address. Bring your driver's license and insurance card. The evaluation will take 3 to 4 hours. She'll test memory, cognitive function, decision-making capacity, everything. At the end, you'll have legally binding documentation that you're fully competent to manage your own affairs. Okay, I'm taking notes on a paper towel with a pen from the junk drawer. What else? Estate planning. Your current will leaves everything to Joshua. We need to change that immediately. I'm drafting new documents today. Irrevocable trusts that exclude Joshua and Patricia by name, family trust with Emma as beneficiary, corporate trustee managing everything. Joshua won't be able to touch your assets even if something happens to you. The relief that floods through me is almost physical. How fast can we do this? Documents drafted by end of day. Signing tomorrow morning. Effective immediately. More typing. I'm also placing fraud alerts on all your financial accounts. Letters to every bank explaining that there have been attempted fraudulent transactions and that no changes should be processed without direct confirmation from both you and me. We make it so complicated to access your money that he'd need a court order. I hear the shower shut off upstairs. Joshua will be down soon. There's one more thing, I say quietly. I need evidence. Right now it's my word against his about what I saw. I need documentation of what he's doing. Security cameras, Margaret says immediately. I know a company. They can install today. Cameras in your office, bedroom, common areas. Motion activated, cloud-backed, admissible in court. If he tries anything else, we'll have it on video. Do it. And Nicole, her voice softens slightly. You need to act completely normal. Don't confront him. Don't let him know you suspect anything. Just document everything and let me handle the legal work. Can you do that? I think about sitting across from Joshua at dinner tonight, sleeping in the same house, pretending everything is fine while knowing he tried to kill me. Yes, I can do that. Good. Text me when you're on your way to Dr. Feldman's office. And Nicole, you did the right thing calling me. Dr. Sarah Feldman's office is in a medical building in Bethesda, 40 minutes from my house. I tell Joshua I'm going to check on some lab equipment issues. A lie that comes more easily than it should. He barely looks up from his phone, just nods and says he'll probably sleep most of the day. Dr. Feldman is maybe 55, with silver hair cut in a precise bob and glasses that make her look like she should be in a library catalog. Her office is book-lined and quiet, with 2 comfortable chairs and a desk covered in assessment materials. Margaret explained the situation. She says after we've settled, I want you to know that this evaluation is completely objective. I'm not here to prove anything except your actual cognitive state, whatever that is. I understand. Good. Let's begin. The next 3 hours are the most mentally exhausting of my life. She starts with memory tests, gives me lists of words to repeat back immediately, then asks for them again 5 minutes later, then 20 minutes later. Some lists I remember perfectly. Others I stumble on, mixing up order or forgetting words entirely. That's normal, she assures me. No one has perfect recall. She moves to problem solving, shows me patterns of shapes and numbers, asks me to identify what comes next. Some are obvious. Others require real thought, the kind of pattern recognition I use in research when data doesn't make immediate sense. Then spatial reasoning. She gives me complex figures to copy. Clock faces to draw showing specific times. Three-dimensional puzzles to mentally rotate. Count backward from 100 by sevens, she says, pen poised over her notes. 100, 93, 86, 79. I continue until I reach 2, my brain working overtime to track the math while managing the stress of being evaluated. She asks about current events. Who's the president? Who are the Virginia senators? What major news stories have dominated headlines recently? Geography questions. Capital of France. Location of the Nile River. Which countries border Germany? Explain this proverb to me. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. It means you shouldn't criticize others for flaws you have yourself. If you're vulnerable, don't attack. She nods, writes something, moves to the next one. What does it mean when someone says, don't cry over spilled milk? Don't waste time being upset about things that already happened and can't be changed. Move forward instead of dwelling on mistakes. More tests. Similarities and differences. How are an apple and an orange alike? How are they different? Logical reasoning. If all bloops are razzles and all razzles are lazzles, are all bloops definitely lazzles? My brain feels like it's being wrung out, but I push through, answer every question, complete every task. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, Dr. Feldman sets down her pen. We're done with the assessment portion. Let me score these and then we'll talk. She works in silence for 15 minutes, entering numbers into